To quote Bob Dylan, the times they are changing. And if you don't want to listen to a heavy talk, you can turn it off and go elsewhere. Refrigerator. Outside. But I will tell you, wherever you go, the times they are changing. Even into your own mind, into your own body, onto the television, onto your computer, onto your phone. Whatever escape zone you have, whatever place you have to retreat to, it's all part of the whole. And the times that we are in are not the times that were. Normal is no longer a word. And we as, if you will, meditators, if you're going to take on an identity, are people who are trying to find the still point, the access to the infinite, the unchangeable, the eternal, in the period of time where things are changing. And I will only tell you that that gets more difficult, requires more muscle, more effort, more demand than when times are sweet and simple. And you can put your head in the sand, meditate daily, live in the peacefulness of what hopefully is your surroundings and your state of being, live a gentle, quiet life, but it does not mean that the times aren't changing. Sometimes change comes knocking at your door. At some point it will knock at your door. And if you are grounded and well-centered in yourself, you will greet change with appropriate humility and grace. But if you are human, you will have possibly moments of concern, fear, apprehension, uncertainty, worry, stuff like that. And if you do, and I will confess to being one of those people who does, what it means more than anything else in my spiritual pursuit is something I hear in a sense from Rudy, which is work harder. Work harder. It doesn't mean you're going to change what is outside you, and you may not even be able to change dramatically what's inside you. But what you might be able to do is go, okay, having a spiritual practice is in a way serving yourself. And many people start out serving themselves. But if you connect to the source of, I'm going to call it authorship, that which is driving the story of our lives, that which is driving us as human beings, you discover that your fascination with and compulsion to serve yourself becomes augmented. And what it becomes augmented by is a directive, to whatever degree you wish to accept it, of serving something greater. What does that even mean? How do you serve the greater? Well, it begins by diving deep, serving yourself, feelings still pointed, some calmness, some openness, some connection to the greater good, to the greater reality that we're all in. And if you start to feel that after however many months, weeks, or years, or decades of practice, you will feel a avenue to something very, very extraordinary, grounding, revelatory, and it will be, strangely, sitting inside you. And the more you practice, the more you will have access to this kind of spiritual knowing. And it is defined in many ways by feelings, one of which is love, one of which is upliftment, a potential capacity for seeing beauty, for touching what is real, for knowing truth. This is extraordinary. And for whatever reason, the more you go in, the more it announces itself. But it's not there to serve you as you discover the deeper you go. It's there to serve itself, the one self. And if you are someone who works hard and is acknowledged by this force as a constant available field of representation for its truth and its beauty and its glory, if you will, it will use you for that. If you are an occasional dabbler in inward practice, going into your own place of calmness and centeredness, it goes, thank you, nice job, welcome, but it's not going to put you in a place of responsibility and power because it can't use you. You're too haphazard, you're too uncommitted. If you don't have a real commitment, it goes, okay, see you around. If you start to establish yourself as committed and available, the power of its usage, of its wanting to have another avenue into its creation that is awake and alert and alive and in love with what it has made, you become that. You become that. And you become a kind of receptor, a kind of receiver for what's happening and for advanced information, if you will. You will start to see the thing that's coming, often long before it's coming, and you will have an opportunity to open and to accept it. When what's coming is the morning sunlight and the beautiful day and the birds are going to be chirping and all of that, sit back and you eat your breakfast, you have a cup of coffee, and it's really sweet and it's really nice. But when you feel the storm clouds coming, when you feel the hurricane, if you will, forming, you have to react differently. You cannot react to the weather report the way you did the day before. It's challenging you. And it's really interesting. The Florida experience, of course, is very compelling because there was news coming that there was a trajectory that may or may not hit you. So if you have a certain kind of personality, you go, well, we'll probably be lucky. It'll go the other way. If you are attentive, you might say, forecasts can be off, and maybe I should take precaution. Maybe I should do something to be reactive. Now, if you have a spiritual life, a real tendency is in people who are prayerful, meditative, to say, I will be protected by that. And in some cases, you may be protected by that. And that would be beautiful. But I would guarantee you, there are people with their meditative protective shield who were blown away by this last hurricane. and who will be blown away by future hurricanes, because spiritual connection does not make you special. It makes you one with what is, pretty remarkable, but that doesn't elevate you above the rest. It makes you one of the rest. You are as impermanent as anybody else. But if you get advanced warning about things because of your still pointedness and your openness, you might be guided. You might just be guided to take cover, evacuate. It may give you very specific things, buy a life jacket. I don't know what exactly it will tell you, but you will hear it and you will do it if you can. You may be surrounded by people who do not believe it and who are not on board, and that becomes its own situation. But if you can follow your guidance, your heart, your knowing, and rise to the changes that are arising in the world around you with some prescience that you are going to be affected by and touched by the world, what can you do? I'm not going to throw out answers because I don't have them. If I had been living in Florida, knowing me, I would have said, let's get in the car and go to Georgia. That's kind of my instinct. Blanche might have said, I don't think we have to go to Georgia. We'll board up the windows. And that may have been enough, and it may not have been enough. In the end, I think I probably would defer to my wife because that's my preferential way of being. But I do know when the information starts to gather in a big enough way, you have to start to hear that voice. And you have to say, get in the car now. Now we do something. Now we act on the inner directive, the inner knowledge of life. And all I can say is my spiritual life has made me very, very sensitive to stuff that is happening. And anybody who looks at the newspaper, anybody who watches television, anybody who has any antenna into the larger world knows we are not in a time of great stability. And I can only say that what our job is right now is to work hard, go deep, be open, listen to the subtle currents of the universe and hear what they're saying, and how can you respond? In some cases, they will give you action to do, and in some cases, they will say, surrender. Surrender. Open to the what is, that there's nothing you can do. I don't know, based on the feelings that I'm feeling, what the answer is, and I cannot share an answer with you. But I can tell you, you need to hear your answer. You need to hear what is speaking inside you, not in your mind, not in your fear zone, which is something that's emotional and can be tripped like a tripwire anytime. Deeper than that, what is the guidance principle? What is yourself saying to you about action when the times they are changing? I feel somewhat guilty being a purveyor of spiritual bliss, let's say, someone who references that kind of identity, that I'm throwing curveballs into that space. And I can totally understand anybody who wants to click the channel and go, nope, wrong direction. This is not the spiritual teaching I want to hear. Be prepared for and ready for transformation and change. And if you don't want to hear, turn it off. Everything may normalize if that word comes back in some way, and life may become a kind of a smooth sailing event. And, I'll look a little bit kind of stupid, I suppose, but I really don't care. All I care about, honestly, is speaking the truth as I am in a way directed or instructed to. Maybe that truth is being channeled through this dramatist who's written, Hollywood movies and knows how excite, scare, and make people laugh. But I feel this particular moment is very, very powerful. And I really feel the most I can say to anybody right now is do the work. Do the work, whatever that means to you. And I will tell you, I have all these health issues that I've described, and I don't like really talking about them, but some of them hit me in the middle of the night, and I've been having struggles with lots of issues. But the words "do the work" come up, and I go right into the heart of the difficulty, of the pain, and everything, whatever you want to call it, and I just go with incredible lightness, and I just sit there, and I do this little bit of, I don't know what it is, a little spiraling in a way. And I just find the pain goes away, the joy of being, the connection to something massive, beautiful, wonderful. I do not understand it. It's work to go there. It's not heavy duty spade work. It's simple going into those spaces of fear and discomfort and pain and all that other stuff. And just, again, I'm doing a little bit of a spiraling thing here. Everybody might have their own version, but it calls for going to the point of suffering or fear or whatever it may be, and just sit there and watch what happens. And I don't know why this beautiful opening takes place. And I don't say that it's a permanent thing. It has to be worked and worked and worked and worked. But it is there, and it comes because I have spent half a century of my life doing this practice, and it has a result. The result isn't I'm freed from the hurricane. The result is I can, with effort and work, go to a place inside in the midst of all of it and go. And it is unexplainable, beautiful beyond belief. And then I can, when directed and given the opportunity, share it with you. So all I'm sharing is you have a capacity, an opportunity, and maybe even now a need to do the work, to go into these spaces of discomfort. If you're having that, if you're not, God bless, enjoy the ride. But if you are having that, find your way into the places of struggle and the places of discomfort and dis-ease, and feel the universe touch you. It is so subtle, but it's so real. And it just does this tiny little dance, and you go, it's so beautiful. And it does not free you from anything. It just comforts you. It takes your hand. It puts its arms around you. It goes, you're going to be okay. It's all right. It's worth it. It's worth it. It takes a lot to get there. And if you haven't done the work, you can't suddenly do the work. Well, maybe you can. I don't, maybe that's a gift and I haven't learned that. But for me, it's been practice and effort over time. And what I'm trying to put out a little bit is what we do here is willful choice. We bring ourselves to the table of a practice because we think we can serve it and it will serve us. And it's a wonderful dialogue. I don't want people coming here to serve me. And I really don't want people coming here out of obligation. If any of you are starting to feel, oh God, it's Sunday morning, I got to sit with Bruce, please do not come. There are so many other things you can do, probably, that will give you happiness. If anything comes up that you think, I have to do this for somebody else, you're misguided. You need to do this if you're going to need it, and if you want to do it for you at the beginning, and then for that which runs the entire show in the larger picture. All I can tell you is serving yourself in the beginning is a first step. Serving the larger picture is a later step. And then I think there's this extraordinary thing where the difference between the you and as a servant and you as the whole disappears. And I definitely have had my absolute moments of no Bruce, if you will, just manifested gratitude. But I do know the dance, and I know how hard it is, and it doesn't come easily, and it doesn't always come. But what does come, and what we are all capable of, is doing the work to find our center, to find our core, opening to the greater thing, which is in fact the author of all of this, discovering that which is writing chapter and verse of our lives and the life of the world, and trying to serve it in order to bring its deepest creative joy into manifested form. That's what we're really trying to do. Bring this into the manifestation. And I will add at this moment in time, again, the dramatist speaking, there is urgency. This is an urgent time. This is not a passive time. When I say the times they are changing, or Bob Dylan started saying that in the 60s, and they were and still are, but they are really changing at this point. And there is urgency. I don't know that we can stop the larger narrative from unfolding, but we can prepare to greet it with some kind of clarity, openness, capacity to serve the greater good, even when the lesser good is in front of us, and learn to help others in this process. The helping and the sharing and the giving is really at the core. If you want to know how God helps the world, it's through us. Give, open, love, share, show up, make the effort. You know, I'm watching this class somewhat dwindle. Varies week to week, honestly. But I'm reminded of this time, I think I've shared it a lot, of driving to Rudy's to go to class and thinking, I'd much rather go to the movies. I'd really much rather go to the movies. That's what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start going to the movies because that's what I feel like. I don't feel like sitting in Rudy's class. And I started driving to the movies, and I was passing 10th Street, and I went, oh, I can't go to the movies. I can't. And I turned and I walked down the block, or parked my car. I walked into Rudy's. I felt kind of stupid for wanting to do something else, but I wanted to and hadn't, and listened to something deeper. I sat down and at that point had maybe the best class I'd ever had. Because it took a choice between following my pleasure zone and my, it's called the joy, and going into the work. The work zone was much more important than the pleasure zone, much more important. And in the end, it was more pleasure. Sitting with Rudy for me was like being tickled all over on some level, being opened up, being fed chocolate, having, you know, every possible joy in life coming at me at the same time. That's kind of what Rudy did, but I had to get there. I had to get to the class. I had to sit. I had to open. I had to stop thinking about myself. I had to stop struggling. I had to just be there. And he would look at me and go, making choices for your practice, making choices for you, and then making choices for the greater good is much better than putting your head in the sand or making choices for obligational purposes. There's no obligation here. If you want to serve the universe and serve God and serve the what is, do it. If you don't want to, join the ranks of many people. But I can only tell you, the time of work is now. The time of work is to serve the universe, serve the what is as best you can, and that will be a very great value in a time of such remarkable upheaval and change. So, call to action, all on you. We'll be here, I think, I also want to run away, just so you know. I mean, you probably know that, but everything goes, nope, not going to the movies today. You're going to sit right here. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what will happen. And as long as anybody arrives, shows up, wants this, we will share it in a greater name than our own. So I hope I haven't upset you all too much. I don't know what talks like this are supposed to do, but it's really the thing that wanted to come through. There may be more of it. So if you don't like this kind of thing, there are people who will teach you bliss. Just go to bliss. That's probably a smarter ride on some level. This doesn't deny bliss. It just says there's work involved. Anyway, love you all. Thank you for coming, especially those of you who drove miles to be here, those of you who turned on your computer to be here. And I'm not trying to make a distinction, but I am. And I love you all. And work hard. Get at it. Okay.
Bruce?
Yes. Yeah.
This is Canadian Thanksgiving Day.
Oh.
And for the past 6 years, it goes beyond words to thank you for these Sunday mornings, for the Shaktipath, for the loving guidance. And I feel something like you just described your feelings for Rudy, sitting here with you, being able to reach out to you when I'm confused. And so just thank you with all my heart.
It's completely equal in the same way. I love you deeply. Thank you. Anybody else? Not too traumatized. Changes ahead. Okay. Thank you for coming. We'll continue this, and I'll see you whoever's around next week.